us about the outcrop down below that did not have black encrustation on it.
We're going starboard.
I think it...
Starboard's ready to go.
There we go. Hang on while we get this thing. Wow.
Nice.
I think this is going to be basically a sediment. It's very likely to be very fragile, pilot, and possibly we want to put it in a bio box.
I'm ahead of you.
As always.
Figured you might be.
You can extend the drawer when you're ready.
So Shirley, when we looked close up at the outcrop of this fine stuff, I think this is probably volcanic clastic material, maybe semi-consolidated ash. But you can see the surface, the black surface does have tiny little almost filaments and almost a mat-like material on it. Bacterial maybe or something?
Maybe.
I really have no idea. But we are seeing white on the surface.
Stuff's crumbling off.
Yeah, it's a chunk of sediment, but
once
I'm hoping it'll survive in the bio box.
Yeah, turn 90
if the seas aren't too rough and we get the ROV back to the surface.
It's a little bit.
But still, it's telling us something about what's out here.
Yeah.
Yep. We had really thin manganese crust on this. It's probably only a millimeter or two thick. So it looks like it is going in the starboard.
No.
Looking straight down at you, 90.
I think it's the starboard.
Starboard outer.
Yeah, it is.
So
starboard
right
outer.
hand,
Starboard outer. Starboard outer.
Starboard outer, and maybe a couple of pieces fell into the starboard inner too, but I think it's a volcaniclastic sediment or
so you want me to? Is that good?
Yeah, rock. Volc. Said. Say Volc said. Probably what I would call a Vitrix siltstone.
Yep. 290.
Should I put that on the label?
You certainly can.
Vitric. What was it? Silt?
Silt.
Oh, silt.
You got your tilt back
Siltstone.
now.
Vitrix siltstone.
This is real common stuff out here in the Forearc. I've been on a deep sea drilling cruise
hot seat grab
on the
jump in and
Glomar Challenger when I was a grad student. And we drilled through the Forearc to get down to the basement rocks and went through.
Push out, then I'll hand over co-pilot, I guess.
You know, maybe depending on where we drilled, 300, 400 meters of this sort of stuff. But I'm curious as to why it's broken up here on the top of this ridge and covered with manganese in places, but not everywhere.
So the name of the game is
certainly is layered.
0.1 knots towards waypoint 2. Not sure how much left we have in the move.
Uphill?
Yes. We were steep. Now we just got to some flatter ground.
So oop. I see a stalk. Pilot, I see a stalk.
All right. I'm comfortable here.
Just to the right of middle. Thank you, sir. Can we zoom on that when you're ready?
Coming in.
Okay. It's a bio thing. What is this, Shirley? Oh, I'm sure it is.
Oh, yeah.
What a secure hydraulics pilot.
Yep,
biology and geology
come on in video.
Intimately interlinked. They like the hard substrates, right? Impartial. Wow, what is this?
Looks.
It's like a dead thing with hydroids all over it.
Yeah.
So it's not a live thing, except for the hydroids.
So there's stuff that's on it. It's live. What? Oh, it looks like it might be looking like a sponge stalk.
Yeah.
I'm looking at that. It
like the ET sponge. That had a long stalk and a big white blob on the top. You're right.
Yeah.
The stalk is broken.
What do you think, Chris? That looks like a sponge. Looks like a spicule stalk. Yep, Scott France says yes. Also, and then what do we got on there?
Hydroids on the sponge stalk.
And what are on the hydroids? Amphipods.
Amphipods. Okay.
Oh, beautiful. Isn't that beautiful?
Oh, boy.
So I agree this is a sponge stalk.
Probably
and it could be from the ET sponge, as you mentioned, Patty, the Bolosoma, but it also could be in something called, in the genus Caulophacus. Hard to say without seeing the actual sponge on top of it. So just so your viewers know, there was probably some type of a ball or a ball-like structure on the top of the stock that got knocked off or lost at some point.
Oh, there's an anemone on there.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yep, yep.
Chris, you're going to see a little white anemone in just a second or two. Do you see that?
Yep, we see it.
Oh,
So
and you can really see.
Can you tell what one that is? I know it's really tiny.
No, really tiny. Very nice.
No clue.
Okay, let me zoom on that too.
Go ahead.
Oh, wow. No. I don't think so. You do? No. I think it's a
solitary hydroid that we're looking at.
wow.
So, Scott, do you think this is a tubularid?
That is a reasonable guess for sure, Chris. You can see, if you're still looking at it, I'm delayed, of course, but there's a raised pinkish structure in the center. That's called the hypostome, and that's where the mouth would be situated on the edge there. And then the little balls that are around the base of that, between that raised structure and the tentacles, those would essentially be gonads. And some of these would develop little jellyfish that could bud off and then swim free, reproduce, and then the larva from that would settle and grow a new polyp like this.
Wow.
Come on in video.
Oh, look at those tiny little amphipods, all the little white guys. Now I'm wondering if the...
So my guess as to what type of a stock this is, I would guess Calophacus because of the length and how narrow this stock is. Usually the Bolosoma, they get kind of wider as they go up and enter into the main body of the sponge. I wouldn't. I think that bodes well for seeing some of these sponges alive.
Oh, really?
At some point during the dive.
It's not
I
ground.
bet you're right.
Oh, okay.
Caulophacus is a species in the class Hexactinellida, or glass sponges, that are typically found deeper than 200 meters. However, they can also be found in shallower water in fjords.
I don't hear it.
So they can be found as shallow as maybe 25 meters in
I must have lost that
fjords.
frequency.
It might be just that headset too. I'm not sure. All right, I gotta push ahead.
Oh, fish. Fish lower left. Fish? Something white. I don't know if it's a fish.
Yeah, looks like it. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, sure is.
Ooh, it's one of those with the delicate, graceful tails, but has a broad head.
Oh, is that one of those, like, duckbill things?
I think the duck-billed ones have a longer snout, but let's find out.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. Ooh,
Yeah, I think
now
it does
Deb
have long.
Glickson says it's a cusk eel. We shall find out from our fish people. So we have several votes on what this is now. Deb does mention she is
that sounds
a
fine.
geologist like me.
I'm pretty sure this cusk eel is in the genus Basogygus. And it could be something that we've identified as Basogygus species 1. But again, I really need Bruce or some of these other fish guys to really confirm it.
Let's see, is Bruce in?
No, he's not. He's not going to be there today.
Oh, too
he's
bad.
out. He's out for the weekend. He'll be back tomorrow.
But we'll let people know that all the Zooms we take, our videographers are taking clips of this, and the people at home who are interested in fish will be able to pull those up right after the dive, almost in real time. My gosh,
Yeah, well,
they get it up quick.
Yeah, usually about, what, a day, half a day?
Oh, I've been seeing them at night.
Is that right?
Full list, yeah.
Yeah, I know that they've been sending them back kind of halfway
To the
through as
server,
well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Incredibly useful.
So we're being told from the folks on shore, from the our science team, that the delay is very short, a couple seconds. So,
and we should tell Deborah Glickson, who is she was the geology lead on leg one, that she was right. It was a cusk eel. Good for you, Deb. I'm learning.
I'm not.
Oh, we have another little white
so
thing.
that one looks like it's another sponge spicule stalk that's
unattached though, right?
Unattached. Well, let's see. I don't know on the left-hand side.
We're going to see something up here. Oh, yeah, I see it. It continues as almost a translucent stick right down to a pebble. We're looking at volcaniclastic pebbles. So these are tiny little pieces of volcanic rock that we're looking at. Much of the Forearc region is absolutely buried by volcaniclastics from the volcanoes.
So you can see at the bottom, you could. That's okay. At the bottom of this before, you can see those spicules, those long needles are made out of silica, and they are kind of splayed out. Gives you a little bit of an understanding of how these sponges can use their spicules to anchor in down in these in the sediments.
So, pilots, looks like we've about stopped here, and we've maybe just gotten to the ridge. Is that what it looks like?
There we're looking at the
that's
top
only based
part
on my multi-beam
of the stalk, but typically there would be a bigger kind of body mass, sometimes spherical, sometimes kind of tulip-shaped or trumpet-shaped, depending on what the species is.
Can I zoom your sonar, pilot?
We are at 3,097 meters on Stegosaurus Ridge.
Right.
Yeah.
Stegosaurus Ridge is a north-south trending, but slightly curved with the inner curve toward the east.
Did they ask you about the curve when you came back from lunch?
No.
Okay. So Deb Glickson had asked earlier why
are these white patches places where burrowing animals are kicking up sediment?
They could be.
So maybe
So
we'll see
why
worms.
is the Mariana Arc shaped this way, kind of accuracy, but Stegosaurus Ridge is kind of curving in the
opposite direction.
Opposite direction. Why is that?
Yes.
Oh,
we got a stalked barnacle.
We will tell Deb all about the geology. And sitting on a rock is a stalked barnacle. These guys are really cute when they open up. But they have hydroids on them too, right? All that fuzzy stuff on the upper part of the curve of the barnacle.
Go, 30 meters this time, because the multi-beam really thinks we should be
a scalpellid barnacle.
The bottom part, the stalk of
Where
this
are we headed, to
animal
waypoint 2
looks
from
like
here, or just straight across?
the trunk of a palm tree.
It does.
I'm from Hawaii, folks.
I'm from Florida, so we're both used to palm trees.
We have,
once we got up on top of this,
and we are both used to extremely large cockroaches.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, yeah.
Palmetto
Let's not talk about
buds.
those. Okay, and then over to the right, looks like a nice,
What is that?
That's a
little white thing?
That's a hydroid.
Is it?
I think so.
Okay. I guess all these really tiny, delicate branched things are hydroids?
A lot of them are.
All right. And there's a kind of a fuzzy one on the right side of that rock, too. So do you want to take a look at some of these patches and see if there's anybody sticking their heads out?
Watch leads now. We're getting to or near the top of this ridge, but we're a fair bit north of waypoint 2. Do you want to hit that waypoint, or do you want to just continue north along the top?
North.
Okay, I'll get that in.
Okay, so for those of you at home, we're close to our second waypoint.
A little bit north of it.
A little bit north of it, and we're going to continue north along the ridge, which is kind of north-south running.
Just to confirm, the ship is stationary now, is that correct? Great. We would like to get moving again. The range of 30 meters, bearing 290 degrees at 0.1 knots. And I'd also like to set our bailout plan to really the ship's heading would be fine. So 160 for the bailout.
Gonna shake off some of this dust.
Okay.
Thank you.
You gotta pick some up. All right. Stock something.
This is
Okay, we see
sediment
something white there.
mix.
Oh,
Looks
oh,
like-
oh, oh. Was that a fish?
That is
What
a
is
fish.
that? What kind
a
of
fish.
fish? Yeah, but it's a weird fish. Looks like a flatfish from
I
yesterday.
know it does, doesn't it?
The way it's moving.
We got so used to seeing this
I'm-
fish yesterday. No, it's
I
eel, more eel.
I don't know
like-
what that is.
It's too close to
It's a
Yeah, I'm trying to back
it's
up.
Yeah, I know.
hard-coated
Okay, folks.
yellow.
weird.
All right, co-pilot, we've started moving at 290, and once we get on top of
Now
this,
he's
probably
caught
at
in,
the
like,
end of this
rough wash.
move,
All right,
we'll
hold on video.
North.
we'll start moving north.
I'm full wide.
But you may want to look around a bit to the south as far as you can reach. That
So,
might make
yeah,
things
Scott
happen.
and
Roger, what'd
Chris
you give him as a
thought
move?
that
30
might be a
meters?
30 meters at
flatworm.
290.
I wondered about
and pretty slow
whether
at
it was some
0.1
sort of
knots,
thing
so
other than a
Come on in
fish.
video.
moving along.
I'm going to try and get a closer look at it.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
not a fish.
yeah.
Not a fish. Huh.
You can turn and look at me.
Yep.
John. Yep.
Interesting. How cool.
Okay.
Now, where was that sponge? We saw
Interesting.
a white
Something on
stalk.
Yeah.
So most of these, if in fact it was a stalk, so these are basically sponge stalks from which the top part of the sponge is missing, gone.
Possibly, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
Tina,
you can come
Tina
back to your
Molotova definitely saw it. She said it was a
to our
sponge.
heading.
You know what I
Roger,
was
coming back
wondering
around.
about with regard to
It's our heading.
exploration of this
290,
ridge.
290.
You're muted.
If
Can't
we
hear you.
see more or less
moving
the
at
same
290.
sort of
Okay.
thing on the top of it,
Do you
would
still
we be able to
have
fly
sight
off
of that
and just drop down
sponge?
maybe
On the other
30
side.
meters?
Or
No,
whatever,
not on the
the
other
white
side, on
version.
the same
Okay.
side.
Side.
Yeah, and just get another traverse up, just so
probably
we could see the layering.
If we have to move the ship, it's going to take a while to do that. It could take us about 30 or 45
Well,
minutes.
you see where the ship is now.
Yeah.
It's off the ridge, and it's going to be moving basically north. So
North.
we're going kind of along contour.
Okay.
Okay, there's the stalk.
Let's see if I can get
There's
to
that thing.
this. Why don't you turn and follow me?
Okay.
So our co-pilot is he is operating Sirius, and the pilot is operating D2, the ROV. And we're going to zoom in on this white thing that we think is a sponge, and this one I think Shirley might be
Well, it's
doing
different.
quite well, might be alive.
Let's take a look at this.
Right.
I'm going to reserve judgment on what this is.
Doesn't look like it's
All right, come on
you
in
know
video.
covered with dark stuff.
No,
like
no,
the
no.
hydroids. But it does
Oh,
have
isn't that
a
pretty? Isn't that
shrimp on it.
pretty?
This is a happy sponge.
Yeah, okay, so Chris, I'm thinking this is Hexactinella too, just looking
Yeah,
at the
but
way
wait,
that surface is
Roger.
meshed, but I'm not familiar with what this genus might be, but it sure does look like it has the surface of a glass sponge. What do you think?
Yeah, so I punched in Semperella, which is a
maybe.
glass sponge in the family Pheronematidae. And so these are a group of glass sponges that have a unique spicule or microscopic part. It's called an amphidus that looks like two umbrellas that are hooked together by the handle. So it's a really interesting thing. Another thing you can tell about these particular sponges is they have a fibrous attachment, and you can see that as you just zoom down.
Yeah.
And the Semperella is one that will actually grow in sediment in his cobbles because of the fibrous attachment.
Can we do a closer zoom on
roots
that?
into the ground there, and so all of these lead me to that genus, and also the appearance of it as well. It has multiple facets along the column itself, which is one of the diagnostic characters for that genus. So very cool, beautiful sponge.
It is a beautiful sponge.
And what was the shrimp?
What shrimp? Just kidding.
Shirley is a sponge expert, and she tends to be blinkered. I know. I'm just teasing her.
I know.
Does anybody know what the shrimp is
shrimp
when
is?
we zoom up the stalk? We're trying to get a close look at the base of the sponge. I find it fascinating that it's.
You see the fibers coming out laterally on the left side that are kind of over some of the cobbles.
Right. That gives you an. You're right.
That's a very important character to pay attention to, is how they're attaching to the substrate.
Okay, if we have time.
My best guess on this shrimp is Plesionica of some kind, but that's quite a wild guess.
And the Plesionicas, is that like a really large group? Because aren't the Plesionicas the ones we saw that were like huge masses of them in the cracks of those we saw the other day? Where was it?
We've had so many
Where
dives.
was it?
I copied that ship is halfway done with the move. What was the second half?
I didn't really notice whether it did or not. But Plesionica is a huge group.
Here we have a nice brittle star.
Oh, cool. Ooh, yeah, that's a pretty one.
Very pretty.
White, and it's moving. It's alive.
All right, let it go. Oh, man.
Boy.
If my daughter's listening, she'll get that inference.
All right, let's get back lined up.
Ooh, we're just in a cloud of our own.
Going back to the
prop wash.
290.
So the surface sediments are very fine. That those white patches you see on the seafloor, I'm just wondering if those are places where burrowing animals have sort of spewed up some of the sediment from a little bit below the surface. Except for now, everything is white. What is the deal here?
Is this what you expected to see here? It's not.
I thought we might see sediment on the top of the ridge, yeah. Volcaniclastic sediment. I think much of the fine material is vitric, or in other words, glassy ash spewed out by the volcanoes of the system. But I'm interested in these rocks. Of course, they're probably just more chunks of vitric siltstone covered with manganese nodules.
We sure did expect to see. Okay, so here's some like more corals.
Yeah.
Because we're seeing the deep water sponges, but not nearly as many as I thought we would see.
Well, do you think that's because the surface is covered with sediment, rather, and they can't really attach it? Yeah, here we go.
The hexactinellid or glass sponges
we could zoom on
can
the
attach
left,
into soft sediments. They use those long spicule brushes to anchor themselves.
Okay. And we have a sea star, I think, or brittle star.
We'll see.
I can't tell. It's got pretty long, skinny legs for a sea star.
Come on in, video.
And what are those rocks? Oh, that's a pretty thing.
Isn't that pretty?
Wow. What a beautiful critter.
Yep.
And what is next to it, Shirley? That looks like some sort of little worm thing. See, just below.
I can see that. I can't tell if it's an isopod. I don't know.
I'll bet you Chris Maw from the Smithsonian might be looking at this at home.
Scott thinks it's a polychaete.
Polychaete. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, it looks to me like a polynoid polychaete.
Really? Oh, yeah, the scale worms. Yeah, yep.
Tina Molitsova from Shirshov
PP Shirshov
Institute in Moscow is saying yes, polychaete. Oh, this is just a beautiful creature.
Come out a little bit. Keep going. I think I saw another one. Yeah.
Right there. Yeah.
Oh, there's a brittle star down to the right.
Yep.
Come on in.
Little white brittle star. Look at that beautiful center.
Oh, wow.
1, 2,
Very
3,
pretty.
4, 5. Five-fold symmetry. Penradial. Pentaradial.
There you go.
All right, finally
there you
got
go.
it. I knew it was pentagonal.
Oh, it's a pretty. Oh, the disc is really pretty.
That's for minerals. The disc is pretty. It goes from sort of a gray to almost a blue right in the center.
It does. Really pretty.
I haven't seen one like that.
No, I haven't either.
Either on the first leg or this one.
No.
Okay.
Zoom in again. Oh, that's a rock. Okay.
Hello, Chris Ma here.
I was waiting for you. Hi, Chris Ma from the Smithsonian. Talk to us. Talk to us about echinoderms.
Yes.
Just while Chris Ma's on the line.
The sixth-rayed animal you were looking at is indeed a sea star. This is a brasingid. It's most likely Phrayastera. It could also be Frayella. There are differences between the two that usually involve skeletal structures. But Phrayastera tends to be recognizable because it has 6 rays. Notice or if you remember from before, the very nice feeding arrays. The spines come out at a very distinct sort of fringe around each arm. When the animal is feeding, it holds those arms up into the water, and there's a sock of sort of tissue that contains many small claw-like structures called pedicelaria, and they serve to capture food in the water. It acts as almost kind of a Velcro. These are a little different from the shallow water ones in terms of their depth and so forth. So there's a possibility that they feed on something else other than crustaceans, which is what the ones that we saw in shallower water feed. But even still, the feeding mode for something like this is is thought to be similar in that sense. So what we're seeing as we go back on the video is, these spines, and even those spines look like they're all in a sort of continuous fringe around the edge. They're actually sitting at slightly different angles to one another, so they form kind of this cruciform, what's called a cruciform array, and it serves to sort of facilitate the feeding of food as water currents flow through them, and then little bits and pieces get caught on the sort of Velcro-like covering on each spine. I've never seen one associated with a polynoid worm before, but there are many sea stars that make friends, as you will, with polynoid worms. Some of them are actually preserved in situ when they're collected. There are sea stars that I've seen where the polynoid worms are kind of stuck on the 2-foot groove, even unto death. So there are some shallow water studies that suggest polynoids actually go, not only do they go to the sea stars, but the sea stars actually come back after the worms. So it's an interesting relationship. But Phrayastera is an animal we expect to see at this depth in the 3,000-meter range. There's a shift in faunas for sea stars as you go between the bathyal and abyssal faunas. That's the one that I often predict when we get to 3,000 to 6,000 meter depths. But thanks very much. I especially love the name of today's dive, Stegosaurus Ridge.
Thanks.
I'm a big fan of
big dinosaur. Yeah, cool.
Thank you very much.
And I'm sure we'll hear from you later on. Thanks, Chris.
Ooh.
I hope so.
Is this a barnacle?
Yeah, it looks like a barnacle.
Yep.
Hey, I'm getting good.
Okay.
First I
Another
thought it was a snail.
No, another stalked barnacle.
It doesn't have its arms out, though.
Legs.
Legs. Doesn't have its legs out. She corrects herself.
As long as we don't call them tentacles.
Okay. It's very confusing to me to have legs come out the top of an organism that is sessile.
Right,
Why does it have legs to catch its food?
There's a guy.
It's a crustacean. They have legs.
Okay.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
What's that? Come on in.
Yep.
I think there wasn't there something?
Oh, what's
sort
that?
of a little white. Oh, what is this guy? Nudibranch?
What is that? What is that?
Holothurian, nudibranch.
I don't know.
I don't know what it is. I think it's a holothurian. Let's see. No, tunicate. Deb Glickson says a tunicate. She's a geologist. I should have known that, right, Deb? She puts a lot of question marks after it, but that's her guess. It's getting blown around a little bit in the prop wash from the propellers of the ROV, but it's hanging in there.
It looks like it has the intestine of a holothurian sea cucumber.
Hey, thank you, Chris. Yeah, you can see the white. You can see the white-looking little tube-like things inside of it.
That guy opened up.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, we see this.
The barnacle's got his legs out.
But I also agree with him. I think it's a sea cucumber.
Okay, now you can see the cirri of the barnacle.
His legs. Her legs? Or its legs?
Its legs. So, I'm wondering, can we get a really close look at those little white balls that are on the surface of these rocks?
Sure. Come on out, video.
Real tight? Real tight?
Real
Sure.
tight.
Oh, you mean right there by the barnacle?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You think they're baby sponges, don't you?
Well, they might be.
I wonder. I guess that's about as tight as it can get. It's kind of hard to see them.
Come on out.
So pilot's going to move the ROV a little closer in. Then we can zoom. Use the macro.
Hey, come on in, video.
Mostly hydroids, huh?
Yeah.
Looks like there's a tiny gastropod. You see that
Yeah,
sort of round
yeah,
thing that
yeah,
looks coiled and sort of just to the upper right of middle.
Yeah.
But I don't see anything that looks spongy.
Yeah,
Tilt
we're
them down a little bit.
Scott had asked in the chat room if okay, there's some of these little white balls. There's some of those little white balls, kind of hard to get into.
Sure, hard to tell what they are.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Really, the sticks that I was talking about were further. We hadn't gotten there yet. They were further
Okay.
up. You kind of see it looking out over the blackness of the water.
Oh, okay.
Right,
Yeah, I'm looking at these little tiny, like, spheres on the edge of balls. Oh, I see. The ones on the top edge of the rock you're talking about.
So what is the white thing hanging down off the left side of the rock?
No idea.
So,
white.
Okay, yeah, those.
do you
Yeah,
want
go ahead. Let's take a look at those.
these guys?
Yeah.
Come on in.
She thinks they're baby sponges.
Oh. Huh.
These have the,
I don't know. I'm thinking.
Do you think?
I'm thinking.
Carnivorous?
I'm thinking cladorized. Look at the one over on the left-hand side. It looks like it has things
It has
that
something
might be
stuck to it.
stuck on the. Yeah.
Those look like cladorized sponges.
They
to
sure,
me,
yeah, they sure do.
So these are the carnivorous
These are the
ones?
carnivorous sponges.
Wow,
so instead
Shirley,
of filter
good
feeding,
eye.
actually, it wasn't my eye. It was Scott's.
Okay.
It was Scott's.
Boy, they're tiny though.
Yeah.
So if they're carnivorous and there are things on them that I would have said are commensals, are they eating the things that are on them?
You betcha.
Ooh.
Yep. Okay, so the way these sponges feed or eat it, most sponges have water currents that they set up with specialized cells called collar cells that have little whip-like structures on them called flagella that set up a water current. Is there any way we can get in any closer to that?
Want to see it digesting that?
Oh, I wish. But what carnivorous sponges do is if you can see those projections, I mean, it looks like just like a feather. And what happens is that
amphipod on that guy
might be. What happens is that there are spicules, so these little silicious. It's kind of like Velcro. We were talking about Velcro before.
Right.
Kind of like Velcro. And when a crustacean, a little crustacean, gets caught in it, and then what will happen is the sponge will take its cells and completely engulf.
Surround it.
Yep. And just over a matter of like days, it'll digest away all of that soft tissue and usually spit out the shell.
Huh.
Quite interesting to see.
That,
you can Google carnivorous sponge feeding, I think, and actually see and actually see videos of this happening. It's very interesting. And
So
these typically occur in these sponges typically occur in very deep water. However, they've also been found, and they were very first identified actually from shallow water caves in the Mediterranean by my good friends and colleagues, Jean Vasselet and Nicole Bouriezneau from Marseille. Very nice. Thank you.
Watch leads nav.
Yeah, go ahead, Nav.
So we're at or nearly at our plateau and probably ready to start moving toward the end of dive waypoint when you're happy here. At 0.1 knots, that will take us a little over an hour and 15 minutes. We have,
I wonder if we could look at that white coral. I guess he's moving toward it just to see what it is, if it is a coral.
Yep, will do. So, pilot, if we can see that coral on the rock in front of us.
Setting up for it now. Hey, come on in, video.
Thank you, pilot. Wow, here we go.
What have we got there? What have we got here?
Chris will tell us.
What have we got?
Gee.
I'm going to let Scott or Les, who actually specializes in these beasts.
Oh,
Coward.
Yeah. We are well, thank you, Chris. I don't see you as a coward. We're looking at a bamboo coral skeleton. So the actual animal is dead. All the tissue is gone. And there are other things now colonizing it. I can see an amphipod at the base.
Pink
I'm not sure if I see gastropods there.
Yeah,
Males.
the two.
But you can see... go ahead.
Go ahead, Scott.
But that's also max zoom.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's growing on it, if these are some kind of amphipods that produce little tubes or what. It's hard to say, but that's definitely an amphipod with its head down at the base. And the skeleton, you can see, we've described often these nodes and internodes. Internodes are those white, elongated structures that are made of calcium carbonate. And the dark stuff you see is the node. That's made of protein. It's thought to be a little bit more flexible. But this is what a bamboo coral looks like when all the tissue is dead.
Okay. Thank you very much, Scott.
You think they're barnacles at that node? Or are they gastropods?
They look like gastropods to me. Yeah, they definitely have coiling.
Do they?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Okie dokie.
Well, at least we know that bamboo corals can live down here.
Yeah, interesting, huh?
At some point.
But why aren't we seeing more biological, happy biological critters down here? It's only 3,089
well, we're really
meters.
deep, and there's not very much food, so that's one thing. I think when we do see stuff, we're not going to see very high densities. I'm actually kind of surprised that we see our first bamboo coral on this relatively flat area instead of the more steep slope, but It was on a rock, so raised above the bottom. And we were just looking at all those cladorized sponges. You notice they were really, really small, just another bit of evidence that there isn't a lot of food down here, so things tend to be very small and in low numbers.
Yeah, and actually to follow up on that, one of the reasons why these sponges have evolved in the deep sea to be carnivorous is because for the choanocytes, these collar cells that are normally found in sponges, to set up that water current that enables the water to kind of be drawn through the sponge continuously. That takes a lot of energy, and that energy requires food. So in nutrient poor waters where you have where you don't have a lot of stuff in the water column, a lot of microbes that the sponge can feed on, they're taking advantage of a different way to feed.
Now, as we zoom in on this crinoid, I'm sure this is a crinoid. I think this is a crinoid.
I think you're right.
Also looking at. I'm also looking at the rocks, and it's interesting that as we zoomed in, you could see a series of sort of stair-stepping blocks on the sea surface. Beautiful crinoid. Look at all the amphipods close to the center of the animal. Those little white buds, I think those are amphipods, right?
Nope, they are.
Aren't. Oh, dear.
No.
Screwed up.
No, I think those are swollen parts of the cirri where the eggs are stored.
Okay.
You think so?
That's my guess.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah, because, we're getting such a good view that we may be able to see the tube feet. So, these are related to the sea stars and the Okearoids. So they also have tube feet. Yeah, you can see them on those little side branches.
Yeah,
so they're
you sure
much
can.
Smaller than on some of the others.
Oh, yeah, look. Oh, this is outstanding imagery.
It certainly is. Coming to you in high definition.
These guys use tube feet to flick little particles of food into a groove that runs along the arm, and the mouth is down there in the center facing upwards, unlike the other sea stars and Okearoids that have their mouth facing down towards the substrate.
Well, we were just talking about paucity of food sources at these depths, and yet if this crinoid is procreating, it must be good enough, at least, to keep it alive and happy enough to have kids.
It's a really good point, Patty. And I guess an interesting question is, how long did it have to gather food to make these sexual products, these gonadal tissue?
Establishing.
Right, and how old is it?
Get the lasers. They should be on.
One thing I'm finding really cool about this dive is that I've been noticing in this part of the Mariana Forearc earthquakes for a long time, and we did not have good enough bathymetry here to be able to identify the regional structure around this feature. But, coming up that wall, seeing those fresh faces of layered material, very clearly this ridge feature is seismically active. So I'm going to go back and take a look at the history of earthquakes in this region and just see, what the magnitude and the frequency and the distribution of them are. See if I can make any sense out of it. So this is just, the thing is you don't know what's down on the seafloor, and so you have these questions. And there's no way that I could, or Shirley, could go to our funding agencies and ask for an expedition to go and just try to find out what's causing something that we're thinking about, but we don't have a whole lot of background information on. So out here on the Okeanos Explorer, what we are able to do is discuss such things in the community of scientists and marine science who are interested in this particular region, come up with a proposal for a dive, and then be able to observe in detail what's going on the seafloor and try to make some sense out of it.
So this is at the very first stage of the scientific method where we make observations. Oh, now it looks like it's a little bit
Oh,
like kind of
lots-
layers.
Yeah, the more I look at this, and then as we zoom in, you can see that these layers are made up of little pebble-sized
Come on in video.
and cobble-sized fragments of volcanic material for the most part, nicely layered. And as I mentioned earlier, much of the 2,000 meter wide portion of the Mariana System from the trench westward to the volcanic arc is made up of material that has been spewed out over that wide region for the last 50 million years as the island arc system has grown above the subducting Pacific plate. So basically, here we are in the Museum of the Marianas, in the Mariana Trench National Marine Monument. The monument is managed by NOAA
Keeps going up.
and a variety of partner institutions that are there to learn more about what's in the monument and to find ways to manage and protect it for posterity.
And that's why this expedition was planned. Oh, what is that over
We
there?
have a white thingy that looks like a squat lobster. I don't know.
I don't know.
Guess
More
5
like
hours.
starfish.
It's a star. It's a star.
Maybe.
It's a big starfish.
Yeah, it's a very big star.
Okay, Chris Ma is going to be calling in shortly. He is our star expert
Resident echinoderm expert
from the Smithsonian Institution.
Oh,
This is gorgeous. Look at this guy. Looks like he's a little bit buried in the
gosh.
sediment. What do you suppose he's doing?
Hey, come on out, video.
calling Starman, calling Starman.
Right. We need to send up the star searchlight.
I know. He's
All the way
dialing.
to the East
He's
Coast.
dialing in right now.
I'm sure we'll hear from him in just a minute.
He'll.
We are waiting.
Come on in, video.
When he shows up, we can zoom.
Yep, that's nice.
Just
Beautiful.
really look at this.
Pretty, pretty.
Wow, and it is partially buried. Look at that. You can see the extensions of the arm, the little tube feet, but not close to the body. This is a peach-colored star of a species that we'll be hearing about shortly. It's got a little... Shirley, we can see that yellow dot.
Scott France is guessing that it has eaten something, which is why the disc is so inflated. That's
well, you know,
what he's
I've been
guessing.
wondering about these patches of white that we see on the seafloor and whether there's a burrowing
whether there's something
animal.
that's burrowing underneath.
And maybe the
Very
star
well
has
be.
found it and has imbibed it, to put it kindly, at least for the thing that got imbibed.
Yep.
Look how detailed this imagery is of the tube feet underneath
that arm,
the fringe around the arm of the sea star.
So you remembered to turn on the Chris Moss searchlight.
Yeah, we did. We remembered that. We were calling Starman.
So what is that yellow patch on the side facing us, low down, kind of near the sediment?
Especially
there's a white patch on the top and a low patch that's yellow. Yeah, is that its stomach? Is the stomach offset to the side in a starfish?
Yeah, nav and pilot.
Or it's
if
just,
you don't
you know,
mind,
the
I'm
whole
gonna play
center
with
of the
sonar a
body
little bit
where
on
it
Sirius,
has
'cause I hadn't
pulled
had that
the critter
opportunity.
inside
Okay.
of it.
So we have a student who's sitting in the Exploration Command Center at Harbor Branch, and he's saying that the yellow is the madreporite. Okay, well, Chris Ma is on. Thanks, Nolan.
Oh,
Chris?
boy.
Hello. Who was it that said that was the madreporite?
We have a student sitting in the Exploration Command Center at Harbor Branch.
Yes. So this is, I see the delay. This is what's called an astropectinid, or kind of a mud star. I think it's probably
Mud star.
The genus Dicaster. And I can tell that because if you look around the sort of edges the fringe around the edge has a really sort of sharp array of spines.
Yeah.
These dig into the unconsolidated sediment, and they they have tube feet that, rather than having suckers on the end, they actually have little points. So they actually serve to kind of dig themselves into the mud or sand or what have you. They tend to be present at this depth in the sort of 3,000 meter range.
Got one.
There's a certain interesting sort of change, well, not change, but when they're alive like this, one of the things that I noticed that was really common was that the disc and a lot of the surface of the starfish in these habitats, they're swollen with water. And because when we get them in trawls and so forth, they're usually in a really kind of drained out, really kind of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Flat.
And contorted appearance.
Huh.
And so, you know, when we see them alive like this, and you might even later on see star-shaped burrows where these have sort of more effectively buried themselves, you know, they are often sticking out on the top because the discs are sometimes either swollen with water or a little engorged because they've been swallowing all of the sediment that is below them.
I
so,
see.
like this one, if we were to turn it over, for example, we would probably find the entire disc and the mouth just filled with mud. And it's actually kind of an indirect way to find out what lives in the substrate here, because you'll often find that they will also be feeding on small snails and small clams that are in the sediment. I've done this a number of times where I've sort of cut these open, you know, the ones that have come up on trawls, and they're just filled, you know, with a sort of fist-size amount of mud, and there's all sorts of stuff in it. Whether they're actually feeding on the clams and snails depends on the animal, but they all have a fairly sort of typical lifestyle in the sense that they you know, that they're sometimes buried or semi-buried in the sediment. Sometimes there are stars similar to this, which have what's called an epiproctal cone, and that's a kind of a procta means, you know, I guess sort of the anus, and epi means on top, and basically this is a projection coming off the top, which is probably related to gas exchange or some other function, so that when it's buried, it can continue to sort of have contact with the overlying water layer. But yeah, most of the times when we see these things, they're buried. Oh, well, when we don't see them, they're buried. So it's nice to catch one like this. Sometimes when these get completely cleaned off, and when they're unburied, they move quite quickly. So they're surprising in that sense, because
that looks
their
like
tube
the
feet
western
really
extent of the ridge.
just carry them along quite effectively. So maybe that's a side benefit of being able to dig themselves into sediment like this so quickly.
So their next move was run up to the north then along this?
Well, we could, if we want to center stereosubstitute more on the ridge,
sort of a
little more west,
sand star, I guess they call them on the surface.
before we start moving north,
this one
there
looks like
seems to be some offset
or
on the
conceivably
multi-beam.
Flute-naster.
Gotcha.
Because I'd
I need
say
to examine it to be positive, but I
D2
think
is
ditaster is a good
right now.
Great. Thank you very much,
Maybe
Chris.
A little bit west.
A hole in the
And
ground.
thanks, Nolan.
Seeing it
There
alive.
is.
Thank you.
You see any critters on any of these rocks here, Shirley?
I do not.
Well, we will, and when we zoom in.
Nice.
Let's move Sirius.
We see a hole.
About 20 meters further.
So would that be
We'll zoom
because
in
there was
0.
like a crust,
That should center it
and
up, and then
underneath
we
that
can
crust it broke
see
through?
north.
Yeah, probably.
Possibly.
I mean, we're
Sounds
seeing
good.
some clumps of
All right,
larger clusters of larger, I'm sure these are volcaniclastics. And this whole area is heavily layered. I'm wondering if some of the layers have moved relative to one another and thus made
come on in, video.
a little bit of a
Come on out.
separation between the layers.
That's right.
But also we look like we
ROV now.
have some talus that's sort of covering over and
We'd like another
around
ship
some of the
move
exposed
20
blocks
meters,
here. And these
bearing
blocks are very
290
rough
degrees at
on their
0.1
surfaces.
knots.
And
Thank you.
where they're exposed here, you can see their sort of brown color. That's a typical color of the vitric siltstone.
So am I seeing more of those cladorized stalks over on the lower right?
Could be. You want to ask our pilot to
Yeah,
take
I don't
a
know.
peek?
Yeah, can we just quickly zoom in over to the left to where the lasers are, please?
On the block?
Yeah.
Right
on
here?
The big, on
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on in.
And just up at the top of that block. And over to the left.
Are you looking for more
Yeah,
sponges?
the cladorized sponges. Okay, no, I don't see any there.
Okay.
She's looking for carnivorous sponges, folks.
I am.
So we are headed, the ROV is pointed at 257, 56 degrees.
So
It's heading,
this is the top.
and we are looking at
Sirius
things dipping
catching up with
down
you.
to the right.
Then,
See, that looks
we
like
can
a
go north.
slab over there.
Well, it's just a whole bunch of layering that we're seeing exposed here. So
okay.
this is layer after layer after layer laid down.
This looks like
On
the
top
top of the
of another-
ridge.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
actually,
I think that is
Yeah,
the
I think
top of
you're
the
right.
ridge. And how,
Yep.
Nav, how far are we to the end
I
waypoint?
think we're pretty close.
No, I think it's,
We're
sorry,
about 220
It's here.
meters
Okay.
from our end.
Okay,
waypoint.
good.
it's up
So,
here.
okay. Yep.
So we can mosey along.
come on in, video.
We have something here
we'll get
that's
there,
branching. Is this a crinoid?
In maybe
This is a crinoid.
an hour, 15 minutes. 1 hour, 35 minutes.
Where's the? That's full.
So we have about an hour and a half.
Yeah, about an hour and a half left in this dive.
All right.
So
Now, you
at-
keep us moving. Make sure we make our waypoint.
Yep, and if we keep moving, we'll make
What's our
it to
next
that
move gonna
waypoint.
be?
It's going to be at bearing 20.
20.
Just to the right of that crinoid is another
We're still
cladorized
moving
sponge, which looks
the
like it
ship,
has maybe 3
at
amphipods on it.
290,
And I
and
can't
then
tell if
Sirius
the
will need to
amphipods are
catch up.
sitting on
Should
it
end
or
up
have been
right above
captured.
you.
Pilot,
by,
if we could
North
zoom
Pole.
on that crinoid, there's a sponge to the right of it, says Chris Kelly on shore.
Copy. Moving
And
in.
Tina.
Yep.
And Tina in
And
our chat
Tina.
room.
There's a stick to the right of the crinoid
Come on
with
in,
an
video.
amphipod on it. Not sure where that is. I do not
Oh yeah,
see
really
it.
tiny.
that
Over
was
to the right.
I see.
Over to the right.
The very
yeah,
thin thing.
very thin thing. Yep. Yep,
Very,
yep.
very
Now
thin.
about it. Yep. There you go. There you go. Down at the bottom of the screen.
Bottom of the screen. And I could see the amphipods too. In fact, there are
Beautiful.
two. This is the
Beautiful.
Mr. and Mrs. Amphipod group.
that are about ready to get eaten.
Possibly so.
Is that a crinoid on there too?
I think that's a teeny tiny brittle
Sorry, I didn't mean
star.
crinoid. I meant a brittle
Brittle
star.
star, yeah. So,
Wow.
Mr. and Mrs. Amphipod are dinner tonight.
Bridge ROV nav.
Crustacean meal.
After we finish this move, we're going to start moving north. How do you like our heading for that? It seems like
He's
we're fighting
touching
some
the
pretty
bridge.
significant wind and current.
Yeah, we're moving around a little bit there.
Sorry, I
Could
got
use
the
even
current on
even
my
at the
broadside.
fine
Come on out.
scale,
No worries.
we can see We can see
great.
Good view of that.
veins in this material that follow the orientation of the larger layers that we see sandwiched up on top of one another, dipping downward to our right. And we're gonna change direction a little bit now. The ROV is pointed to the northwest, coming around to the north. So we're at pretty much due north, and we have a fish. Ooh, let us zoom on the fish.
Go ahead and video.
This is another cusk eel. Looks just like the previous fish. Ah, yeah, cusk eel. I am learning. It's got little feelers on the bottom
Okay, take a bit
of its
more
head. And Chris Kelly from the ECC, the Expedition Control Center in Hawaii, is likely to tell us what this is any minute.